Walkin, California, sponsored in part by California's Gold Country Visitors Association in partnership with Visit California. Ready for an amazing American road trip from Old Town Sacramento to the mountains of Yosemite? It's all here in California's Gold Country. Walkin, California is sponsored by Chicken Ranch Casino in historic Jamestown, California, inviting you to discover the great outdoors of the Motherlode and its scenic landscape. Chicken Ranch Casino, proudly owned by Chicken Ranch Rancheria of Miwok Indians of California.
I'm Steve Weldon. I'm an adventure nut and a hiking fool, and boy do I love to explore. California's my home, and nothing beats taking to the trails, the roads, and the byways. Come join me while I trek across our Golden State, discovering special places and special folks. Walkin, California. Our big Redwood adventure got underway as we traveled northbound on Highway 299. Here we got a great look at nature's beauty along the coastal mountains and the Trinity River. We took a break along the way and I got out my old hiking shoes for a short walk to stretch my legs and take in that view. From there, my excitement grew as we hit the famous Highway 101 just south of Eureka. Now from here we passed some historic towns and some beautiful fishing villages. This is a very special area because this part of the coast is dotted with rocky, craggy shorelines and wide, broad beaches and some beautiful, tall trees. Join me, Steve Weldon, and let's explore the Redwoods together on Walkin, California. We'll begin our hike in Humboldt County, north of Eureka at Prairie Creek State Park. Then we'll head out to Del Norte County, just east of Crescent City, to beautiful Jedediah Smith State Park. We are almost there to the beautiful California Redwood National Park. Now we're on Highway 101, we're in northern Humboldt County, and we saw these beautiful Roosevelt elk. Now this is a herd of about 35. You're not going to see any bulls, all you're going to see is the females. Why? Because it's calving season. That's why I'm being kind of quiet. These are beautiful elk and they're endemic to this area. There's several thousand of them. So you'll find them all over this area within about a 40 or 50 mile radius. That's a beautiful Roosevelt elk. As I was getting ready to meet our guide for the Redwood hike, I met a fellow hiker along the way. You know, one of my favorite things about hiking and walking California is the people you meet along the way. And I met this gentleman just a moment ago, Ohad from Israel. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great, Ohad. What brings you here to America?
I decided to go for a few months van traveling through North America.
Okay.
And along the way, I passed through the Redwoods, and it's amazing woods with such big trees and such a beautiful sights.
They're tall, aren't they?
Yeah, they are.
You were telling me you started off in Vancouver, Canada.
Yes, I did.
You came down here. Now, had you read about the Redwoods in Israel?
I heard about the Redwoods in Israel. I never read about them, but when I drove through, somebody along the way hitchhiked with me and told me about the place, and I said I got to go and see myself.
Oh, that's pretty neat. In Israel now, do you have any trees like this in Israel?
No, not even close.
Well, I hope you have a great time, and I hope you have a safe hike and a wonderful trip in America. And I got to tell you, Israel's on my bucket list.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend. Safe travels. We have made the trip to the Redwood National State Park, and it is absolutely beautiful. These trees are something else. I can't believe it. And I'm in the presence of the wildlife biologist here at the Redwood National State Park, Mr. Keith Benson. How you doing, Keith?
Very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing terrific. I mean, gosh, you can't be doing bad at a park like this.
You can't.
It is absolutely stunning. This is just flat out beautiful.
Thanks.
And we're excited to go. I want to know where we're going to be headed today on our trip.
We're going to be walking the Brown Creek Trail.
Okay.
And then heading up on the rhododendron trail to loop back around.
Okay, will the rhododendrons be in bloom?
I'm hoping so. This time of year, they're really going right around May, early June.
And this was a real wet year, so it ought to be a good one.
It was. Should be.
You bet. And there's so much flora How about wildlife? You got a lot of wildlife. You got to have wildlife here.
We do have a lot of wildlife, but here in the old growth forest, they do tend to be sneaky because they're hiding in the trees. So you don't often see a lot of wildlife when you're walking around in the old growth forest.
Okay, just they're there, but they're hiding because there's so much brush and
they're looking at you, but you're not so much looking at them.
Well, they're getting an eyeful. It's pretty incredible how this forest is just hopping with life. And this is a perfect example, Keith, of, you know, when life ends, another life begins.
Yep. Yeah. Well, there's things grow here, and so when something dies, that just becomes the platform for the next round of life.
Oh, it's Mother Nature just doing her thing like crazy. Wow, banana slug, pretty cool.
Very cool.
And he's moving.
Yep. He's moving top speed.
Top speed?
Yeah.
Well, I think he likes me because he's moving towards me.
It may take a while to get there.
Now, what else are we going to see besides this banana slug?
We have a lot of different species. We've got Pacific giant salamanders, rough-skinned newt. Make sure you never lick a rough-skinned newt because they are poisonous, so don't ever do that.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
I need to write that down.
Yeah, write that down. We've got a lot of different species of frogs, toads, yeah, all kinds of fun things living down here on the forest floor.
Well, cool. Hey, little buddy, see you later. These plants are so alive, just absolutely beautiful, Keith. And the root system, everything about this place, I'm just amazed by. And these roots,
yeah.
Let me ask you about this. I noticed that a lot of these roots are above ground. Now, is it harmful to the root if people walk over these roots? Obviously, the trail is such that it is, and they're going to touch these roots. They're going to walk on them. What can we do to, I mean, is it hurting the tree?
So, I mean, here in the park, obviously we manage crowds. I mean, let's get down to that. And
sure.
So in a backcountry situation like this, no, it's not going to harm the roots, a small number of people that are going by. But in a place in the front country where we have hundreds or thousands of visitors, yes, it definitely could absolutely hurt the tree. The roots could get damaged simply through all the trampling. And so in those places, you know, we'll put up a symbolic fence to protect the trees and the roots, and so the tree doesn't get harmed by all the thousands of footsteps, you know, pounding away. But out here in the backcountry, these trees will be just fine. Okay,
but maybe if you can, you might walk over it instead of on it?
That's what I would do.
Sounds good to me. Well, it's our lucky day. We got some sunshine, Keith.
Yeah, it's starting to come out finally.
And this bridge, and you got a nice looking creek. What's the name of this creek?
This is Brown Creek.
Brown Creek. Okay, now the trail's named after it. Now, do you have any fish in this creek?
We do. We've got a couple of species of salmon and a few species of trout.
Salmon and trout. Now, do they don't spawn here, do they?
They spawn right here, right where you're standing.
Really?
Well, they come up out of the ocean, they swim up Redwood Creek, up Prairie Creek, and then right into Brown Creek, and they make their nests right here.
And as shallow as this water is, in places just inches deep, they can swim all the way up here?
Salmon are very determined fish. They'll go where they need to go if they need to spawn.
Well, it sounds like it. So they just kind of sneak over the rocks a little bit?
They swim right over the top of them.
Right over the top of the rocks?
Yeah.
And how big of a fish or a Chinook salmon or whatever could we find in this creek?
Well, the Chinook are the biggest species of salmon in the world. They get up to 50 pounds, 3 feet long.
I don't have a fishing pole, but I'm tempted to get one.
Well, you can't because it's illegal to fish here and you'd end yourself up in prison.
Oh, really? I don't look good in stripes.
I don't think you would.
No way.
I don't think so.
No fishing in the park. Wow. I'm looking at this root of this huge redwood, and I'm looking at this, I'm guessing, is that a hemlock?
That's a western hemlock.
Okay, a western, I got one.
You
About
did.
time.
You did.
Anyway, so this western hemlock, I see the roots growing out into the root of this redwood.
Yeah.
And then I see the root coming back into the ground. Now, how did that happen?
Well, the forest here is a lot like a tropical rainforest in that some plants will start out what's called an epiphyte, which is a plant growing on another plant. So that western hemlock started growing up there, and then eventually it threw its root down and went all the way down until it hit the ground, and then the tree really took off once it touched soil.
Well, how long do you think that process took?
They're a pretty fast-growing tree, so it may have happened in just a couple decades.
This is just flat out amazing.
It is amazing. It is amazing.
This looks like an elephant ear.
Yeah.
What would you call this? What is this? It's kind of smelly a little bit.
Well, it's good that they smell. These are skunk cabbage.
Huh.
It's a plant that only grows in really, really wet soil. So here in riparian areas along the creek.
Kind of marshy.
Kind of marshy, exactly. And the interesting thing about these guys is later on in the summer, they'll throw out a huge yellow flower about that tall.
Okay.
That absolutely stinks to high heaven of skunk, and the whole valley will start to smell just because of this plant.
It'll smell like a skunk.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that curb attendance a little bit?
I don't know, people think we have a lot of skunks.
Maybe it's a turnaround at that point. Well, I can smell it a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. They smell all year long.
Matter of fact, I think I'm ready to head on out. Well, this is the best part of living here. And I've noticed something, Keith.
Yeah.
I've hiked a lot of trails and a lot of parks in this state of California.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen a trail or trails this clean anywhere I've gone. I'm really impressed. I have not picked up a single piece of litter today. I mean, not one. So that leads me to the question, you've got to be doing something. I mean, I'm real big on picking it up, you know, and even if you got to pick up after the other guy, but you're doing something right here. Obviously, this park is spotless.
Well, thanks for noticing that. We got a special campaign here in Redwood National State Parks called the Keep It Crumb Clean campaign. And the reason we have that is obviously we've got black bears here, so we want to keep our visitors safe, you know, so they keep their campsites nice and clean so they don't attract bears. But the second reason we do that has to do with the old growth forest. In this old growth forest, we have an endangered bird called the marbled murrelet. It's a seabird, and it nests here in the old growth forest. It's the only seabird that nests in old growth trees.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
And what we found out is they are, you know, restricted to the old growth forest, and we thought that would keep them safe, right?
Okay.
But once we started doing research, we realized that they're getting predated or eaten by predators at a really high level, especially near campgrounds and picnic areas.
Okay.
And what's eating them are Steller's jays. We realized we have to get our visitors to make that extra step, because what was happening is the Steller's jays are getting pulled into our picnic areas and our campgrounds, and then they're eating the marbled murrelets at a really unnaturally high rate, to the point that it would keep that endangered species population too low.
Okay. And
that way we can protect the marbled murrelets from getting predated.
And brush those crumbs from the table from that hamburger or that hot dog.
Exactly. We want you to keep it crumb clean.
And crumb clean, and that reminds me, I've got my bag. Everywhere I go, I bring a bag, and this is because me and Cameron, my buddy, we came up with this together. We're going to pick up a whole lot more than we left. We don't leave anything.
We appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. You have done a great job.
Thanks.
Thank you. Back in the pocket. I don't have to do it today. As we go underneath this big old redwood tree, that's a pretty incredible. Oh, the bark is soft.
Yeah.
As we go underneath this, and then I see all this plant life that's growing from here, how is that plant life able to establish any kind of a root system with something like that? Is it just because of the decay of the bark?
Yeah, I mean, the conditions here are so good for growing plants because we have so much moisture that even just a little bit of soil gives a plant like those guys, you know, enough to get them going.
A little wind and rain is going to create
just enough soil for them to grow.
For that to happen.
Yep.
That's incredible. You know, because of all the moisture that you get here year-round, I mean, where I live, when we have new growth, the first week or two of spring, we have all these great, beautiful green leaves, and it's just wonderful. Yeah. But it seems like here, every day is the first day of spring.
Well, you're in a temperate rainforest, so I mean it's always wet here. We get anywhere between 60 to 90 inches of rain. So
60 to 90 inches, and I heard that some places get up over 100.
Yeah, sometimes on some wet years, we've gotten up to 140 inches of rain.
140 inches of rain?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you wear goggles to work?
You learn to love your rain gear.
Oh my God, 140, that's almost 12 feet of rain per year.
Yeah, yeah.
And now, is that year-round, or are your summers a little bit drier?
No, we're Mediterranean like the rest of California, so it starts usually in September and ends sometime in May. So, and then during summertime, it's nice and dry.
Well, what I've heard about the redwoods is that, and tell me if this is true or not, because I've read that they tend to create their own climate.
Well, not in the wintertime. Wintertime, storms come off the Pacific, but in the summertime, Ocean's really cold, interior's really warm, and so the fog rolls in.
Okay.
And so what the redwood trees do is they actually catch the fog, and then it actually creates a rainstorm by combing the fog out of the sky, and it rains down onto the forest floor, waters all the plants, and even the trees themselves actually absorb the fog through their leaves and through their bark.
It just seems like this whole forest is totally alive.
Absolutely, from the forest floor to 380 feet up in the sky, it is nothing but life.
And here, you got a trifecta.
You do. Yeah.
Look at these big redwoods. This is beautiful. Okay, now let me ask you, how do you tell the age of these trees?
Generally, the wider trees are the older trees, so the two here in the front are probably what we call middle age, 600-700 years old, and the one way in the back is probably pushing 1,000 plus.
1,000 plus?
Yeah.
Okay, so it has to do with the girth, basically, of the tree.
Yeah, so the wider the tree, it tends to be a much older tree.
Yeah, this is just terrific. Look at all the ferns, all the beauty, all the...
It is. It's nice out here.
And the moss that grows, everything is just, it's just so alive.
Yep, green. Green's our color.
And we're looking at trees that get up to what, 300 feet or more?
380 feet's the biggest one we've measured so far.
380 feet.
Yep, tallest living thing in the whole world.
I'm noticing on all these redwoods, and this is pretty unique and interesting, the bark is different. For instance, you've got this bark right here, which is absolutely beautiful. And then you've got this bark here, which is almost like artwork, the way that I don't want to touch the tree.
You can touch the tree.
I can touch the tree?
Yeah, they're tough.
Oh, well, good. But this is different. This is almost like somebody did a sculpting.
Yeah, well, I mean, redwood trees have a huge amount of variation among the trees, and so this is just a genetic mutation between that individual and that individual. And these guys we call curly redwoods because if you look at the grain of the tree, it forms this beautiful wavy grain.
Wow, a curly redwood.
Yep.
Okay. We were on the Brown Creek Trail. Now we've moved over to the beautiful, incredible rhododendron trail. That's where we are right now. And while they may not be in peak season, we found one, a beautiful rhododendron. It looks like a tree, but you call it a bush, right?
Well, we grow everything big here, but yeah, right around late May, early June, that's usually our peak flowering season. So yeah, if you come around at that time, that's when you're gonna see the most of them.
Okay, so we're a little bit on the early side.
Just this year, but typically this would be a good time of the year.
Well,
late May, early June.
It's been a pretty cool winter.
It has been. It has been.
But and you've got the rhododendrons, which are stunning. They're beautiful, and you've got other flowers along this trail.
Sure. If you came earlier in the year, you'd see trillium flowers. Right now, you also could see some Pacific iris. There's always something blooming in the park all months of the year.
And not only that, of course, you've got that old growth forest, and there's nobody here.
It is. This is busy.
This is heaven on earth.
It is. It's nice.
It's
nice.
so peaceful. It's so tranquil. And when I keep my mouth shut, I can't hear a thing.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. You know, my friend, this is the one hike that I never, ever wanted to end. I have had a great time today, and I want to thank you so much for what you've taught us today. You've taught us about how to be crumb clean. You've taught us about the trail. You've told us about the Titans, the redwoods. You've told us so much and given us so much information, and for that, we're forever indebted to you.
Well, thanks for coming. I really had a lot of fun.
National Park Service for having me here.
Yeah, we had fun. I enjoy tomorrow.
Will do. Appreciate it very, very much. Behind me to my left is Battery Point Lighthouse. It's historic. That's all part of the landscape here. It's incredible. It's hard to believe that on January 24th, 1964, a tsunami hit this town and hit it hard as a result of the great earthquake in Alaska. It killed 12 people in the downtown area, and it forever changed the look of Crescent City. But it did not break the spirit or the hearts of the people there. We're here at beautiful Crescent City near the Redwoods National State Park, and we're ready to hike the Boy Scout Trail as we walk California. We're still in Del Norte County. We're day 2 of our big hike. We're on the famous Boy Scout Trail. And we're with a district interpreter, Ranger Michael Glore, and he's with us here today, and thanks for coming out.
My pleasure, Steve. Welcome to Redwood.
Well, thank you very much. We're so glad to be here.
Well,
we're having a blast, and this is so beautiful. and this is your office. I'm pretty jealous about that.
Well, I'm kind of jealous of you as well, but yeah, I have to say, it's not a bad workplace.
Tell us a little history about how the state parks came to be, when it happened, and how they integrated with the national park system.
Okay, those are great questions. You know, it was the early 1900s. Logging in the redwoods was prolific. But in the, like around 1919, a group of wealthy entrepreneurs from San Francisco took a trip up the new Redwood Highway.
Okay.
And what they saw pretty much alarmed them. I mean, destruction all around, but there were these little pockets of old growth redwoods that still remain, that had survived all this logging.
Okay.
So they went back, and with the help of their friends and donations from other influential people around the Bay Area, they were able to buy some of these pockets of old growth and preserve them, and they donated them back to the state parks as some of the first California state parks.
And so that was part of the Save the Redwoods League?
Yes, Save the
campaign?
Redwoods, like one of the first, pretty much the first conservation organization to set aside redwoods for future generations.
Okay, and hopefully the bleeding has stopped.
Yes, it's shocking when I tell visitors this, but there's 2 million acres of redwoods, though there was 150 years ago. 95% of that has been cut down.
Wow.
95%, but what's left, fortunately, almost all of that is preserved in state and national parks.
Oh, that's terrific. All right, we're on the Boy Scout Trail, and we're about to take off. Let me ask you real quickly, how did it get its name?
My understanding is there was a longtime sheriff in Delaware County. His name was John or Jack Breen. And in addition to a really colorful history, in fact, in the early 1900s, he and his brothers had a livery service in Crescent City. And one of their jobs was to, by stage, take mail from Crescent City up this road, Howland Hill Road, into Grants Pass area. So he knew this area real well. And he's credited with being the first person to discover a very famous tree. It's kind of a two-trunked redwood called the Boy Scout tree.
Okay.
But the reason it's called that today is because Jack and some friends of his were the first people to create a Boy Scout troop in Crescent City. It was Troop 10. So he's kind of the founder of the Boy Scouts in the area. And when this became a park and this became an official trail, it was memorialized in his name.
Terrific. Well, I know you're not going to be with us for the whole hike, but a little bit of it, and we're going to have some fun.
Absolutely.
You ready to start?
I'm always ready.
Let's get it.
Let's do it.
You know, where I come from, where I live, it's beautiful. But when we have dreary weather, when we have rain for 10 days or fog, I get a little bit depressed.
Well, yeah.
And you know what's funny, Michael, about all that is that yesterday and this morning I was thinking about it, when you have a little overcast and you have the fog and you have the weather, I thought to myself, I'm happy as a clam. I mean, you couldn't get the grin off my face with a front end loader. Because all this fog and all this cloud cover creates so much life.
It's dripping with life.
And I thought, I don't need the sun when I'm in the redwoods.
I like that attitude.
It's incredible. All the incredible beauty and all the life that springs out of the dead logs that are there, the redwoods, is just totally amazes me. It's so beautiful. And it leads me to a question. The Tallahs, what was their first utilization of the redwood logs?
Well, first I couldn't really say, but you know, like we talked earlier, since time immemorial, they've been utilizing redwood for the amazing building material it is.
Okay.
Amazingly constructed plank houses.
Okay.
That were admired by many who saw them and still see them today. You can still see some today.
Really?
Also, the redwood canoe. This was a vessel that was amazing on the ocean, amazing on this area's rivers. Truly just a remarkable example of watercraft, and you can still see some of these today.
It will last forever. Wow, even the muddy roots have moss on them. Everything has life after death in this park. It's just magical. And I see all these ferns growing out of all these old dead logs, but I got to thinking about something, Michael. When one of these big, that's probably called a titan, or one of these huge 500, 800-year-old redwoods goes down, what a thump it must make. I mean, my gosh.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've never seen one myself, but I've heard it. A loud rumble like thunder and almost like a glacier calving. And in fact, a couple years ago, one fell in Prairie Creek Redwood State Park. It registered on a local seismograph.
It did?
So, yeah.
So it basically created a local earthquake.
Absolutely, that's what they do.
But the fact that there's new life growing out of it kind of makes it okay.
It does make it okay. It's an excellent growing substrate. I mean, when a tree comes down, it creates a hallway of light that plants need.
And then more at the bottom get life.
Oh, absolutely. And it's tons of water stored in those fallen trees.
So there's
that's
good
a great,
in everything.
Great place to grow.
Can't beat that.
Indeed.
What do you say we just take in the grandeur of this sacred redwood forest?
Yeah.
After saying goodbye to my friend Michael, we hiked on up and we finally made it on the Boy Scout trail to the Boy Scout tree. Look at it. Beautiful. I mean, words can't express this tree. And it's a monument and a memorial to the Boy Scouts. And the proudest day of my life as a Boy Scout is when I got this, an Eagle Scout at age 14. And in honor of the Boy Scouts, I'd like to do the Boy Scout law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. I was a proud fellow that day. You know what? Being a South Texas boy, I've never fancied myself as a tree hugger, but I think today I am. Another day, and a beautiful day in the Redwood National State Park as we walk California. We had a dandy hike today along the Redwood Trail. Saw lots of trees and a waterfall and something looked like a snail. We met a few ladies and a couple of gents that found all to their liking. And that's what makes life so much fun, the folks you meet while hiking. So when you get out on the trail today, there's one thing I better warn you. You're gonna be grinning ear to ear when you walk in California. Yeah, you're gonna be grinning ear to ear when you walk in California. That's all.